Good evening, folks. Everybody's here. I'm not sure whether Ilda's joining us, but maybe she'll join us online or in person. But we have a quorum, and I would entertain a motion. Oh, here's Ilda. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the September 6th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Brendan. Do I get a second? Seconded by Mark. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Paula abstained. Ilda, what's your vote on the minutes? What?
I abstained because I wasn't here.
Right. Okay, great. So 2 abstentions. Thank you. Is there anybody who signed up? Oh, Ilda, it says in the minutes you were there, but we'll take care of that. Oh, you were there via Zoom. Do you want to approve the minutes? Do you want to change your vote?
I want to change my vote, please,
Yes.
to yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Public comment. Is there anybody signed up to speak during public comment? Okay. Just want to, on the board chair's report, just mention a few things, a few housekeeping things. I know we're going to be talking, we're going to hear overview of the ed specs tonight. I just want to suggest to the board that we did put on the agenda just in case possible approval of the ed specs. I would like to suggest that since we have the proposed elementary school up for discussion at the board retreat on October 7th, that we not take any action tonight, and that we wait until we are all together on October 7th to delve in deeper. We can identify questions tonight so that when we delve in deeper on the 7th, we can maybe get a little more information on some things. The other thing I'd like to bring out is that we do have a regularly scheduled board meeting on Wednesday, October 4th, and we could take action this evening to, rather than have a board meeting on Wednesday night, October 4th, and then have a day-long retreat on Saturday, October 7th, just cancel the October 4th meeting, but we'd have to add that to agenda under action items. So folks should think about whether that makes sense. And then finally, after we get the report on school planning and design tonight, that committee, we may make a decision not to have the meeting tomorrow night, but we'll see when we get to that part of the agenda. Okay? Great. So now we're on to the superintendent's report. It's over to you, Tracy.
Thank you very much. So the first item on my report is the latest vacancy report. You'll notice that we have significantly reduced the number of certified positions that were currently open, that were open the last time we checked in. We're obviously working every day to fill all of our positions, but you have a list. I don't know if there's any specific questions about the current vacancy report.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we can come back to it if need be. Go ahead.
Okay. Next up is the start of our biweekly check-ins on attendance and discipline. So you have in your packet comparison between the opening of schools, so the first week or so of school. Last year as compared to this year, you will notice a decrease in overall attendance. We do think that that has something to do with the weather related to those very hot days that we had. We did not have those at the beginning of last school year, so that is one of the contributing factors, the half days and early dismissals. Often we see that in the data. Then you have the report that compares discipline to the same time frame, essentially the same time frame last year to this year, and it lists out any in-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions, or expulsions that the district has dealt with. I don't know if there's any specific questions. We'll continue this year to offer you those reports every 2 weeks. We're tracking the data in all of our schools and obviously district-wide because this information is shared with the state. Okay. Next up, we have the collaboration with CPRL, which is an acronym for Center for Public Research and Leadership. That they are the group that we worked with last year on family and community engagement. This year, the focus of our work with them is the attendance initiative at Windham High School. They are meeting with the Windham High School attendance team on September 26th. They have an interesting data dashboard and some mini research, ongoing data support that they can offer the team at the high school, and we're hopeful that that's going to increase the likelihood that we can further reduce chronic absenteeism at Windham High. Questions? Okay.
Yes, Mark?
I would just wonder if there's a point at some point in the winter, I guess, that we can hear from the CPRL what their initiatives might be and what their findings.
That's an excellent suggestion, and I had planned to share that data dashboard with you once it's up and running, but we can have them come in, absolutely, or Zoom in, if, as the case may be, because they're not actually in the state. They are sometimes, but not always, so I will definitely arrange that.
Yeah, we'll make sure that happens, Mark. Thanks.
Okay, next is, if you remember, we left this off of the last board meeting, and I talked about making sure you got the data. So the Family and Community Expo that took place back in August, we had more than 700 people came to that Family and Community Expo. We gave away 400 social emotional SEL bags, 600 backpacks that were filled with school supplies. Students also received free haircuts from a number of local vendors, local hairstylists and barbers, some of which are actually parents in the school district. 52 boys and girls got free haircuts to start off the school year. And there were 84 vendors who attended the event, and we were very proud of the work that everyone did and the collaboration with the town especially. So it was a successful expo. I think many of you were there, but we wanted to make sure you had the specific data.
That's very impressive.
Speaking of impressive, we brought back Parent and Community University. It's coming back on October 21st, which is a Saturday. It will be held at the Windham Rec Center from 8:30 to 2. There'll be 3 sessions, and each session will have 3 classes being offered. We hope to get approximately 10 to 15 people per session. The planning committee, which was made up of our parent advisory group, selected 9 topics, and they are presenting. Some of them are actually already signed up to present, but we are looking for more presenters or providers and always looking for monetary donations to run Family and Community University. Most of that's grant funded.
Just to comment
Katina.
that, thank you, that at the Wyndham Task Force to Prevent Child Abuse and Neglect, we decided to participate, and information regarding substance use, etc., and child abuse, as well as what to expect of children for different ages. So we're happy to participate again.
That's excellent. Thank you so much to
That's
the task
great.
force. Yeah.
I have a quick question. Are board members encouraged to attend
Oh.
that day? I just want to make sure.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, I know when we used to have it, we were always invited, so if anybody wants to show up, they can show up and go to the workshop, pick a workshops and things like that, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, last but not least on my report is just a quick update on the storms that occurred on September 13th. We had some minor things take place across the district. So I've listed out for you the schools where there were issues and whether or not there was any permanent damage or what needs to be done next in terms of our response to it. The last piece, I know the board was interested in learning about Windham High School because we had, as I mentioned in the board packet, we had that strange thing occur with the turf field. It sounds like too much water ended up in the drain system, which forced the air out, and somehow the air caused like a giant air bubble in the field. it all settled back down. We're still trying to figure out exactly why that happened, and why maybe it didn't happen on other turf fields in the region. So they're still looking into that, if we need a different kind of drain or a larger capacity drain or something along those lines. But the vendor that put the turf field in came and told us there's no permanent damage. The field is okay, which is wonderful to hear. The same is true, there's no permanent damage. Any of the water that entered the high school, because roof drains were either not working properly or not able to hold the capacity of rain that fell. Water did end up in the high school, but it was just, we were just able to clean it up. There's no permanent damage at the high school. So that's the update. Right now, we're lucky that nothing happened permanently.
And the town is working to address the
The north-
runoff
yes.
problems on North Street with the contractor, which is not the Board of Ed's responsibility
Correct,
to
that's-
deal with,
Yes,
correct?
and that's why I didn't report out on it, but yes, we're
Well, in
obviously.
case people are watching and they're wondering why we didn't mention that, because they read about it or heard about it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they're troubled by it because it's their homes and their neighborhoods. So yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that's all I have for my report.
Any questions? Mark?
Tracy, do we, excuse me, does the building committee plan to have some sort of final test or resolution as to, like, especially the field, what they're going to do with the air problems? I mean, I don't want to be left and find out 2 years from now or a year from now, we have another bad storm and it
So
bubbles again.
So I know they left saying that they had to get the final report from whoever did the analysis, and then they were going to share that with us, so I will certainly share it with the board.
Because one of the things I've already heard is that they were planning to put some sort of air venting pipes behind the snack bar
Well,
area.
I hadn't heard that, so I don't know how, okay. But that was one of the things they talked about, is could they add an additional place to vent that air so it doesn't happen again in the future? But I hadn't heard where they were putting it or if it was even actually happening.
Good sources.
Yeah,
Well, Mary's on the building committee and she hasn't heard that, right? Yeah, so we can keep people posted on what the final outcome is. And as Tracy said, we want to make sure that we're in good shape moving forward with the new field. Okay, any other questions for Tracy? Seeing none, we're going to go on to discussion items, and the first part of the agenda is under discussion is the ed specs for the new proposed elementary school. We're going to get an overview on it today. I'd like board members to think about any big questions they have so that we can delve into this in more detail when we have our retreat on October 7th.
Okay, so the board received the full document, 35 pages or so long. I'm going to give you a very general overview of some of the major pieces in the ed spec. Obviously, when you have the time, you should read through all the details, and I would like to hear feedback and questions, concerns. The more eyes on the document, the more likely we are that the building turns out to be as amazing as we think it can be. Okay, so prior to writing the ed spec, I wanted everyone to know that I visited all the schools and talked to them about where we were in the elementary consolidation discussions. I encouraged them to email me with anything that they thought was pertinent to the elementary consolidation project. I met with the state construction office. They recommended that I use the South Windsor ed spec as a model. I reviewed several others prior to developing this one. I received feedback from the members of my leadership team. We met as a whole group, small group, and one-on-one to get their feedback. Then I drafted the initial draft and pushed it out to the elementary principals and staff members at each of our 4 elementary schools. They provided feedback and we revised the draft, and then that draft went on to the school planning and design. So lots of eyes, lots of contributors, lots of people talking about how to make this school amazing. Any questions so far? Okay. Holly, you have the clicker over there, right? All right, so just 4 topics or 4 areas that I'm going to very generally go over tonight. Again, I encourage you to read the full document. So go ahead. Thank you. So in terms of school information, after last night's school planning and design meeting, we did decide to add in a few extra classrooms to round them off. Now, that's not to say that we'll end up with this total number of classrooms at this point, because the state may come in and tell us you don't need that many classrooms, or if you choose to put in that many, you're not going to have the highest rate of reimbursement. So, but what is in there right now in the draft that you have is 10 kindergarten classrooms, each with their own bathrooms, 10 classrooms for first grade, 10 classrooms for second grade, third grade, and fourth grade. There are 6 specialized program classes, because all of the current specialized programs in the district are going to end up in this one building. We obviously have resource rooms, related service space, interventions rooms, teacher work rooms, and conference rooms. Any questions there? Okay. In terms of specials, we're offering PE, so there'll be a gymnasium with a stage. We're offering 2 different art classes, so there's going to be 2 visual art rooms. One will have a kiln and the ability to do art related to that. We are offering general and instrumental music, so there's actually 3 music rooms in the ed spec. 2 are for general music, and 1 is a performance-based room, so the kids can play and sing, can play instruments or sing in the chorus. So lots of opportunities there. We have a STEAM lab, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We have a lab where students can engage in activities related to STEAM. We'll have a library media center. Inside that library media center will also be its own technology room, and we will have the ability to provide age-appropriate lessons on world languages and culture. Any questions? So that is definitely a more robust offering in terms of elementary school than we currently offer in any of our buildings. And if we're able to pull this off, our kids in Windham are going to have opportunities that they don't currently have, which is very exciting. Any questions? Okay. Obviously, support facilities. You need to have a cafeteria. This is a very large school. We sort of created a mock master schedule. We know, I spoke to the director of food services, who knows exactly how many square feet he needs to build the kitchen of his dreams to make this thing work. Again, that's a discussion we have to have when we get to that point. But we are going to have a rather large, or possibly 2 cafeterias, depending on how they set up the serving lines, and because we need to feed a large number of students moving through, so we think it can be done with the right facilities. We have a health services, sort of a suite, and also in the ed spec, you'll see information related to, and I'm sorry because I usually spell it out, but that stands for School-Based Health Center, SBHS. The reason why we have that in the ed spec is because I'm imagining that the current school-based health center housed at North Windham will find its way into this new building. So it's there to make sure we don't lose it. We obviously want to keep that. We are, in the ed spec, you will find a family engagement center. That is a room that we've asked in the ed spec if it's possible to access that room without entering the school. So it could be a separate entity, but we're imagining that we're going to have opportunity for parents to have access to technology and be a part of training sessions, completing things needed for school, accessing a whole lot of information in the Family Engagement Center, so we're excited about that. We think we did a good job of identifying the needs in terms of storage, both in and outside of the building, and you'll notice in the narrative sort of a repetitive message that we need to make sure that we have the ability to store English and Spanish materials, because obviously our dual language program will exist inside this building. Any questions? And last but not least, in terms of what's written about site development, obviously safety and security is the most important thing. We made mention that we want to make sure that however this building is designed, that we remember that it's kindergarten through 4th grade kids. We want it to be warm and inviting. Even if it's a large building, it still could be designed in a way to make it feel smaller and make them feel like they belong. It will be technology rich, which we're really excited about. 21st century, our kids are digital natives at this point. We need to have a school facility that allows them to be that way. We obviously are making it crystal clear the bus loop needs to be separate from all other traffic on campus. We cannot have the mixed. Parking is obviously mentioned as something that needs to be looked at carefully, and we've made reference to needing to have the outdoors, the ability to extend learning into the outdoors, nature paths, outdoor gardens, things of that nature. So, any questions there? Okay.
Right, so I'd like to open it up to discussion, and not everybody was able to be at last night's committee meeting, and we're not taking action on this tonight, so this is a good time to raise any questions or concerns that you'd like us to delve into more deeply at some point. Go ahead, Katina.
I would be very interested in soundproofing in the building, especially I've been at my grandchildren's school, and a cafeteria time is super noisy because it's open, so soundproofing would be important. Yes, that's what I'm thinking right now.
Thank you, Katina. And I can let you know that if you look at page 10 on the draft that you have, it says that unless otherwise noted, the standard furnishing for every classroom, and we can extend it out to other spaces, are expected to include, and one of the bullets there is acoustical insulation for soundproofing. It is mentioned throughout the document, but we certainly can make reference to it. I know what you're saying because I went to that school. We did a visit there, yes. So it does get loud. That's what they told us.
Any other thoughts that people have? Mary? Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm not sure it's in here, but I'm just questioning, will we have the capacity to do either a Zoom type meeting or cable? Because one of the things I think we've missed out in the high school and this school is we don't put enough of the school activities, the plays, the Christmas concerts on the cable access. Will the school be equipped to do that?
So the technology room or the STEAM lab, one of them does have I'm blinking. Oh, now it's green again. It's back. There is video production equipment listed in one of the spaces for the students. It would be inside the science lab, the STEAM lab. There is a green screen for mini video production and video production equipment listed as something that we want to have available for the elementary students.
I think that Mark's suggesting, though, that it should be outside of that room so that if there's a play going on the stage and in the auditorium, that we can show that on cable access. That's what I heard Mark say. Right?
So, additional equipment.
Right, I was thinking in terms of community access to our schools, especially now that we're doing more Zoom meetings. Grandparents from out of town can watch their kids. I mean, I know I see many of my grandchildren's productions in Seattle by going online and
Okay.
getting to see the production, so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm making note of all this.
I was going to say, like, to some extent, that used to require some dedicated infrastructure to it, but with more modern networking, that's usually a more portable, more agile thing, so it might be something to include in FF&E rather than needing to be included in the infrastructure of the building.
I recall when we designed this building, there was a lab in the basement of the building, which was supposed to be able to do things like have morning newscasts. So we're going to the kids were going to be able to put together their newscast and then broadcast it throughout the building, because every room was connected with TV. I don't think it ever came to pass, but something like that would certainly be.
That was in operation up until, it was actually in operation the last 2 or 3 years I was here as director, at which point we couldn't get parts of that system anymore.
That's how old it was, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mary, you had something. Oh, no, that's okay. You sure? Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Katina, go ahead.
On the outside spaces, besides the gardens and nature trails, play space.
Yes, and in the narrative about the development of the site, outdoor play space is specified in terms of students being able to do small activities and much larger activities, and accessibility for students regardless of their ability level to be able to access the playground. So there's probably going to be multiple playgrounds to, meet the needs of kindergarten through fourth graders. Thanks, Bob. Holly.
So you're saying the spaces would be accessible to differently abled children?
That is correct, and I can give you the page number where it's spelled out, but it's in there.
No,
Yeah.
I believe you. You don't. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Comments? No?
I'm going to say that this is a dream that is going to come true for our kids in Windham. Just saying.
Well, hopefully we can deliver on it. Like if the people in town vote in support of it. But we're trying to get it in shape so that we can bring it forward, start having discussions in the community, sell it to folks before we go to referendum. So it's a process, and we'll certainly, as we know, when we do any big project like this, there are lots of people who have different opinions, and I'm sure we'll hear from folks on that. But I think if the board can be unified and are projecting why to do this and why it's so important, that will be very important.
I just want to let you know that in my summary of the 35 or 36 pages, I forgot to mention that it's going to be a climate-controlled building. So that's really important, really important. I do think that we should probably put together, and we have all the information, we just need to summarize it, the financial benefits of investing in something like this versus trying to keep the buildings open that we currently have. In addition to just the fact that it costs us about $1 million every year to pay utilities at each of the 4 schools we're paying for, the upkeep for buildings that are anywhere from 120 to 60-something years old. The financial benefits of doing something like this is really important, not to mention that we can increase the offerings for our kiddos.
Right. So I would say, in addition to financial benefits, we want to talk about the academic and social, emotional, and other benefits to students by doing this. Safety, as Paula said. And Mary, you have a question or comment?
Yes, 2 comments. The first sort of relates to the HVAC. Just hoping, I don't know if it's written in here that we want to go for either geothermal or net zero, something sustainable. And the other question is, a school that may have 1,000 students, I'm, a little concerned that there's a principal and an assistant principal, and that might really not be sufficient for those student numbers.
So there's actually 2 of each. There's 2 principals, 2 assistant principals. And obviously we're building 4 offices, and that's what we're saying right now in the discussions. I want to have the flexibility in case the building has to be sort of 2 schools within a school to make it more homey and inviting for the kids, that we have the ability to have a K2 school and a 3-4 school, but there are 4 administrators scheduled for this school. There is not a mention to the net zero, so if that's something the board wants me to explore, I certainly can.
I think we should explore how we get 2 nets, if we could do that, or the most sustainable energy, climate-friendly school we could possibly make, because we're talking about this for the next generation plus. So
So there is mention to it being a sustainable, not net zero, because that's a different, that's like the next, the big leagues.
Right.
Closest to it.
I
would
think we
say.
should shoot for the best we can get, and if we can't do it, then we can't do it, but I don't think we should assume that we're not going to shoot for that.
So that would be on the environmental systems equipment page 31 that talks about those kinds of things, but we certainly can look deeper.
Anything else? I know this is a lot to absorb, and that's why we wanted to run through it tonight, let people have a chance to think about it. Obviously, if there are questions or concerns that you want to raise, I would ask board members to let Tracy know and CC me so that we can prepare for a deeper discussion on at our board retreat. Paula, were you going to say something? Anybody else? No. Oh, Mary, go ahead.
Just a quick edit. I mean, so the pagination's a little off, like the community use looks like it's on page 30, not 29, just in the table of contents.
Thank you for that catch. Mary's a good proofreader. Anything else? Okay, so that's that for that item on the discussion. And now we're on to the first reading of the proposed amendment to policy 5114.2, and it's in our packets. And now would be the time to bring up any questions. Katina, I don't know whether you want to kick it off with an explanation of where we are on this.
Yes, and definitely help me. Yes, so this proposal, this policy was brought to the policy committee. As I was reminded today, Chipman and Goodwin does not have a model policy. So the director of athletics has made some recommendations. This policy is less punitive, and it encourages students to do better in school, attend school, and be part of the teams, which is a motivator for them. Unfortunately, the athletic director is at a soccer game today. I said hockey before. Jeez, so cannot, we cannot ask this person questions, but it's for your consideration, and any questions we'll try to answer, and hopefully next time we can vote on it. Have anything else to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, since this isn't based on a model Shipman and Goodwin policy, we decided to put it up to the normal 2 readings. So please review it. If you have any other questions, let Dr. Youngberg know, and it'll be on the next agenda as well.
Oh, I would like to also add that the athletic director reviewed our policy that presently is in the book is so much more restrictive than any of the other school districts in the state of Connecticut. So we want to get to the 21st century and motivate students to do well in school and participate in sports.
Thank you, Katina. I wanted to just mention that very thing, that it's in line with other high schools across the state, and our previous policy was actually not.
Mark?
Tracy, reading the policy over, it looks like the director of athletics is taking on an awful lot of responsibility, but I don't see who is going to schedule and pay for these tutors to work with the kids, for the students who may need it. I mean, it's obviously we're going to require some sort of staff.
It's actually already in place. The tutoring options exist right now. We have it for the students that are struggling.
So when we put these student athletes into that same program, that won't be an issue?
This policy is very similar to the one that currently exists, except it's less restrictive and more aligned to other high schools, but we've already offered tutoring to students.
My concern was the staffing of the tutoring. Okay, as long as you say we can handle that.
So since it's in place, it's not an issue. Okay.
And we won't be using the vice principals for any part of this?
Well, that's one of the things. If you'd like us to that this is exactly why we do a first and second reading, and if you want us to
Right.
consider something else. So the director of athletics in this case is the sort of the one overseeing the whole thing, but we know he's not the only one talking to kids about their grades. But if you want us to be explicit and spell that out, we're
No,
certainly able to
I'm just
do that.
correct, because it spells out a lot of responsibility for the director of athletics, who I know is in favor of the policy and probably will accept it all. It's just curious of the long-term future.
Yeah, so maybe you're right. Maybe we need to have that conversation. Should we be more explicit about it being the director of athletics in conjunction with, we can certainly talk about that.
So you would like people to, if we'd like to make suggestions for amendments, it's probably helpful to bring them to whom before we take it up for action? Tracy and Katina is the chair of that committee?
Yes, and Dr. Youngberg, please.
Thank you. Anything else on that? So we should be prepared at our next regular board meeting to take action on this at a second reading.
Yes, and we'll make sure Zach can get here.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to committee reports. Policy, Katina, is there anything you'd like to report?
We met on our regular meeting. Thank you, Holly, for always having everything prepared. We are submitting to your consideration the repeal of 15 policies that either we have voted on similar ones already, model policies, or no longer are needed in our books. And also, we are proposing the repeal and replace of 4 policies according to Shibman and Goodwin's model policy that are up to date. Anything else you would like to add?
Nope, I think that covered it.
Thank you.
Any questions for Katina? Thank you. So now we're on to curriculum. Mary?
Yes, we had our curriculum meeting, I think 9:13, and Neil went over the 4 core subjects for the K-8 curriculum, and that would be math, English and Spanish language arts, science and social science, and he did a very comprehensive overview of the textbooks, the online resources associated with them, the tests and assessments, and also intervention opportunities. And I'm not sure if I forgot something.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody else have any questions for the committee? Mary? No, thank you. Now we're on to personnel. Paula?
Personnel meeting was this Monday night, 9/18. We had a lot of information from HR given the start of school. Lots of work was put into the leadership retreat. Packets were handed out that involved a lot of the in-service training and information that folks required, even down to the discussion about building subs versus long-term subs. HR was involved in the annual expo and Third Thursday, providing information and recruitment opportunities, providing some children's activities as well. And the fall schedule has been put out for the career fairs. One will be at Sacred Heart. They'll be attending that, which is primarily for nursing, but it's needed, so it's a good opportunity. There was discussion about partnerships with UConn, where they're identifying students that have a postgraduate plan and in the meantime can provide some services to our district as well. Let's see, they've met with another agency that's similar to Kelly Services as a possible service to help fill our substitute much-needed positions, working with companies to update our pamphlets that are passed out for recruitment opportunities, and work is going forward on our Pathways to the Classroom. Joyce in the HR department will be working with vendors and community services to provide new staff with any needs that they might have. The vacancy report we did hear this evening. Let's see, we have paraprofessional negotiations tomorrow, which we're hoping we'll be able to come to some mutual agreement. And then next week, we have the second meeting for the administrators union. Oh, my goodness gracious. The new hire orientation was extremely extensive. It was a 2-day effort with 54 new hires attending day 1, 57 day 2, and there was lots of discussions. They received packets, introductory activities. They heard from lots of different departments, union leaders. They were given a tour of Willimantic and all the schools, which I thought was kind of cool. And IT and finance departments were also a new and terrific addition to this orientation. And Mark had a question about the special ed teachers, the fact that we still need to hire some special ed teachers, and the concern about whether we'll be able to accomplish our IEPs. And Dr. Youngberg was confident that the staff is aware and has been and will be filling the need going forward. And we adjourned at 5:58.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, they're busy.
Is there anybody who does anybody have any questions, comments? Mary?
Well, one comment and I guess a question. The comment is that, even when my son, who recently graduated from college, was at Windham High, he had a long-term sub for physics, and it seems like that's been every single year. I have no idea if some of them come with the thought of becoming teachers, but none have stayed in that time, so that's a concern, and I'm just wondering how many of the long-term subs we do have in the academic subject areas, and are they here for 6 months? Are they here for a year? So that was my comment.
We can get some information on that. Thank you. Anything else? Katina?
Just occurred to me to ask, are we advertising like in the professional organizations, for example, for nurses, there has to be a statewide, you are? Okay, thank you. Or the physics or others?
Thank
I
you.
know if you want Grace, she can name all the places that we're currently advertising, but we're advertising everywhere.
And Katina, I think that we did have a discussion about the fact that we were putting out information even to other states, looking for those who were in certified positions and had the same qualifications that we needed here in Connecticut.
It's a lot of work. It's very tough. Thank you. And then school planning and design. Brendan.
Thank you. I think I can keep this nice and short and sweet since we met last night and we reviewed the ed spec that we just reviewed a few moments ago. Given that we had a special meeting last night and there doesn't seem to be any major discussion at this point, we'll be canceling tomorrow night's regularly scheduled meeting. Any questions?
Any questions for Brendan? I'm sorry I missed the meeting, but sounds like you had a good discussion.
Yes.
And Just before we move on off of committee reports, I've neglected to mention in the board chair's report that we all have our Board of Education self-evaluation forms in our packets, correct? And we've set aside time at the board retreat to review the results of our self-evaluation and identify priorities for the board's work together moving forward based on, you know, themes that we pick up from the evaluation. I would ask each board member to take time to fill in the self-evaluation to the best of your ability, and if you could share it with me before the retreat, I can take the results as I've done before and come back with a document that sort of codifies how we're grading ourselves on things and help us identify items for discussion. Does that sound fair if we could share it with me by like the 4th of October? Okay, and I'll send a reminder out to you all, and with an electronic version of this, if that would be helpful for folks too.
Exactly what I was going to say,
Right.
in Word format, so that we can fill it out. and
We'll do
send it
our
back to you.
best. I'll work with you, Holly, to do that. And if people have any trouble with the technology, you can also just fill out this form and mail it to me, or let me know it's ready, and we can arrange to get it picked up.
We'll talk about how we might be able to help you.
Okay.
Now, so
Thank you.
make it easy.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier. Yep.
If I have a problem filling out the form, can I have Neil as my tutor?
I don't know, Neil. Do you want to be his tutor? Okay. I'm sure it would be a laugh fest, so, okay.
Do you have a C average, Mark?
Okay, now we're on to action items, and the first item on the agenda is item A, which is approval of the Alliance PSD ESH Summer School Account Consolidated Grant Application. The documentation for that was in your board packet. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Mark. Do I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ilda. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Nope, I think it was unanimous. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
should we be making a motion to cancel the October 4th meeting?
I don't think we have to vote on that as a
No?
board.
Okay, thank you.
Because we cancel committee meetings
Okay,
without
just wondering.
going through the board.
Thank you.
But I think, go ahead. No, October 4th is on the agenda, not tomorrow's school planning and design committee meeting. No, that's what she was talking about. So tomorrow's school planning and design committee will be canceled, as Brendan has announced, because they had a special meeting last night. So we're not going to vote on item B. We're taking that off the agenda for today. And C, I'm just wondering, we can have a meeting on October 4th if board members would like to. That's our regularly scheduled meeting, or we could cancel it. And I'd entertain a motion to do so if people would like to.
So moved.
Okay, do you want to? I can't tell by your tone of voice.
No, I said, I just talked about that, so.
Okay. Okay, motion to cancel the meeting on October 4th was made by Katina. Anybody like to second that?
Second.
Second by Ilda. Now let's discuss it. Does anybody have any opposition?
I have
Yes,
a
Mark.
question. Will we be able to make official votes at our retreat. For instance, we just did a policy that'll have a second reading. If we don't have this meeting and we can't vote at our retreat, that second reading gets put off till late October.
Right.
So
Good point.
We'll be able to make it, we'll be able to make votes at our retreat?
I don't see, it's a full board meeting with it's noticed. I don't know why we couldn't if we wanted to. But we usually try to avoid doing that kind of thing at the retreat.
And I don't
So
mind.
that's a
I'm
good
just raising the-
practical
Yeah, I'm
question.
just raising the question as, I don't know what else it'll put off, but it'll put off the vote on this, on the policy, which I know the school is actively looking forward to, but it's fine with me if we put it off. I just raised that issue.
Well, what do folks think?
My only thought is, I think technically, this counts as a special, the retreat counts as a special meeting, so it would have to be on the agenda from the beginning.
Correct.
Also, we wouldn't be able to get testimony from the athletic director unless maybe
Right.
he submitted it in writing. But, so maybe, I
Maybe
feel
we
like
should
it
have the
should be
meeting?
done soon enough, if it seems like it's a priority
How
for the
quickly
school.
does this need to be done, do we think?
Can I propose a crazy idea that if people feel comfortable enough, we add it to the agenda tonight? Or is that impossible? I mean, if there's an urgency and we all are feeling comfortable, I'm just wondering.
I mean, it's really an administration question. Do you need this policy before our next meeting in October?
So I know he's trying to reach out to Zach. Obviously, we have student athletes who are currently being held to the standard that exists in our current policy. So, I mean, it could potentially impact some of our current athletes.
Okay. Well, the other option is to have a
We could just do a Zoom meeting on the 4th.
short Zoom meeting on the 4th and just take action on that. So why? Yeah, let's hold the meeting. Okay, we're going to keep, does it sound good? We'll keep the meeting on the 4th and do a short Zoom meeting and then have the athletic director be there on Zoom so he can explain to us what's going on. So if there's a conflict with an event, we will need to make some special accommodations if they want to have this changed. Well, if it's Zoom, he could potentially just go on his phone and Zoom in. Yeah. Okay. So we'll keep the meeting on the agenda for October 4th, make it a Zoom meeting, and have it be a light agenda. There may be some other business that comes up that we want to put on it.
Since
Okay.
the motion was made, do we have to vote?
Yes, we need to, well, I'm not the parliamentarian. If the motion was made and seconded, do we need to vote? Okay. Would somebody like to withdraw the motion?
I would,
The person would have to be you.
motion withdrawn.
And it was seconded by Ilda, I think? So do you agree to withdraw the motion?
Yes, withdraw the motion and come up with a new one.
No, we don't need a new one. Okay, great. Okay, thanks. It was an idea. It didn't come to fruition. So now we have a bunch of policies for repeal under item number D. And we could, if we want to, take item D 1 through 15 in one motion, if people would like, because they're all repealing.
So moved.
Motion made by Katina. Do I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Paula. Is there any discussion on these repeal items? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion that's on the floor, please indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. And then we have item, right, E. E, policies for repeal and replacement. I'm going to change that to E. And we have items 1 through 4 that we could act on in one motion if we wanted to.
So moved.
Motion made by Brendan, seconded by
Second.
Alicia. Okay, wonderful. Any discussion on these? Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, please indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. And now we're on to public comment. Nobody? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:56.
I move, we move.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.